And we're back here at WHIP Radio in Philadelphia. Time in the WHIP studios is 11:40. Baseball is right around the corner, and we also have March Madness going on tonight in Philadelphia. Wisconsin plays Notre Dame, and Indiana plays UNC. And a man that will be on the call for Westwood One is Tom McCarthy. And then for baseball, he is the TV play-by-play voice of the Philadelphia Phillies, and he joins us right now. Tom, it's Zach and Mike. Thanks for a few minutes, and how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you doing?
Well, we're doing great, and we're excited for the games tonight, as I'll be in attendance as March Madness takes over Philadelphia. But real quickly, I know you've been in Clearwater for a bit. Just what's been the feel in Phillies camp as they are 14-7 in spring training so far right now?
You know, it's actually been pretty good. I mean, Pete Buchanan's run a very loose spring training, but he's also been making sure that that fundamentals are punctuated, and you know that his guys are doing things the way he wants them to do. He's waited a long time for this opportunity, so this gives him a chance to kind of put his sort of footprint on this team, and it's been pretty good. They've played hard. They've been energetic. I still don't think there's a lot of outfield positions that are solved except for Odubel Herrera, but beyond that, I think it's been a pretty good camp so far.
Yeah, the record has to give some of the young guys some confidence. I know it's only spring training, but the manager and McCannon is now going to be here for a full season. You have a new GM in place, but when people look at the span of a full 162, a lot of people are excited about Maikel Franco, who right now is hitting 300 in spring training with 7 home runs and 18 RBIs. Just what do you expect out of him for a full 162?
You know, I think what we've seen during spring training is what we're going to get from Maikel. I think that he's become a much more disciplined hitter. I think he's taken that next step, which I think you need to do, you know, when you're his age. I think he's got a lot of confidence. I think he shows that with each and every at-bat, and he's putting himself in good spots from a hitting standpoint. You know, everything that he's going after with a purpose. He's got an idea at the plate, which I think is huge, and I think it's just the next step for him, to sort of the evolution of his game.
So as you know, the talk around the entire sports country right now is March Madness, and you'll be on the call tonight for not one but 2 games on Westwood One. Just what were some interesting notes yesterday when you're at the Wells Fargo Center that you came across watching these teams practice at Philadelphia?
Well, I think that, you know, for the first game, I think that it's, you know, I think a lot of it has to do with Nigel Hayes and whether he gets out of this little funk that he's in. That, you know, enables Wisconsin to shoot the ball a little bit better, not only inside but also outside against Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame's going to spread the floor. I think Mike Brey that's his style. It's always been his style when he was at Delaware, and I think he's carried over to Notre Dame over these last 16 years, and I think he wants to be able to drive to the basket. You know, Demetrius Jackson is an NBA player, so that's kind of cool to watch him tonight, and also watch how he sort of controls the game to a certain extent. Jay Happ's cousin, Ethan Happ, is going to be handling Zach August for Notre Dame. So that'll be a cool matchup because he's a redshirt freshman, and they really like him. They think that he, you know, last year he basically redshirted because Bo Ryan felt like he needed a year of seasoning and practicing. And, you know, I would think if Greg Gard was the coach last year, he wouldn't have redshirted. But that's a good matchup. I mean, a redshirt freshman against Zach August. I mean, August is also a pro somewhere, whether it be in Europe or whether it be in the NBA. So that's going to be a great matchup too. And then, you know, the nightcap, it could be the best game of the weekend in reality. I mean, I know last night's games were not what anybody expected. They were all double-digit ball games. But, you know, North Carolina against Indiana, you know, Indiana's going to run against North Carolina, which not many teams are able to do that. Whether they're successful or not, well, that remains to be seen. But they are going to try to run against them.
I know everyone around the country likes to pay attention to the players on the court, but I'm actually concerned for the announcers tonight, Tom McCarthy, because you have to work 2 games back-to-back. And we had Doc Emmerich on the show last week, and he was telling us how he eats peanut butter in between broadcasts when he has the exhilarating months of a Stanley Cup playoff with multiple games. So what do you do to keep the energy level up in between the broadcasts tonight as you have not 1 but 2 games?
Well, you know, it's funny, peanut butter, I've never heard that, although it's my favorite thing. Maybe I'll try that. What I generally do is I have a lot of Donnie Marshall, who played in the NBA for a few years, was at UConn. He was my partner the last couple of years when we would have 4 games on the first day, and he introduced me to coconut water, which I don't like coconut water at all.
Same here.
I do use it during games because there's some kind of an elixir. I don't know what it is that enables you to, you know, keep your voice clear and and everything else. I'm a little dry right now. That's my concern. So I've been drinking a lot of water. Energy won't be an issue. And I don't think voice will be an issue because I did 4 games last week and then 2 games on Sunday. So that's not a huge deal. But I do always try to find different ways to get things going. I mean, licorice is a good thing to have when you're doing games because licorice kind of scrapes as it goes down. So you kind of clear all the crap out of your throat, so it comes out a little clearer than it normally would.
And we're talking to CBS Sports College basketball broadcaster for Westwood One, and he'll be on the call for 2 games in Philadelphia, and that's Tom McCarthy. I'll definitely make sure to keep some of those foods and beverages in mind for the next time I'm broadcasting. But we had Dick Weiss on our show earlier in the week, and I was mentioning to him that it's interesting that you can see a team like a Middle Tennessee, the Yales, and even the Stephen F. Austins, where they can, bust some brackets in that first round, but then already in the Sweet 16, we're seeing a lot of the bigger teams prevail. I know there's an 11-10 matchup, but not in Philadelphia. You'll be on the call for a 7-6 matchup, but why do you think the field closes so much more just already by the Sweet 16?
Well, we were talking about that yesterday. I think a lot of it has to do with preparation. Sometimes a Middle Tennessee State is not a team that everybody sees all the time. So they kind of shock everybody in that first game. But then you sort of adjust to what they're able to do in that second game. You've already seen some tape. They're a little worn down. They're not as deep as some of these bigger schools. So lightning in the bottle is not as easy. I mean, look at Northern Iowa. I mean, Northern Iowa would be the Cinderella team in this tournament right now if they had been able to close out Texas A&M. And for no other reason than just poor judgment as far as inbounding the basketball goes. I just think that there's just more at the disposal of schools when it comes to scouting, and these bigger schools. In reality, a lot of them are deeper. I mean, North Carolina, look how deep they are. I mean, that's a deep team, talented, but a deep team. So that's why I think you see less of the Cinderellas and more of the sort of national powers as we get into the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight.
And you mentioned North Carolina. All 4 number 1 seeds are remaining. They'll be playing tonight in Philadelphia. They are playing a tough Indiana team, though, who are a number 5 seed. Tell the listeners, if Indiana wins this game, what does that mean for UNC, and how can they beat this UNC team?
Well, I think they can beat this UNC team by playing like this UNC team because that's how they play. They try to run it up and down. I mean, this has a chance. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be, but this has a chance to be a game that's in the 90s or the 80s or high 80s. And North Carolina's only lost 1 game this year when they allowed the opposition to score in the 80s. So the goal for Indiana is to run, and they need to be able to make shots, move the ball. That's what they did their last game against Kentucky. They moved the ball around, so the secondary shots were there for them to take. So do I think they can do it? Yes, I do. Do I think they will do it? No, I don't. But I do think that they have the ability. This is a tough matchup, and I think a lot of it has to do with Yogi Ferrell and the fact that he can handle the basketball and make these decisions on the fly for Indiana.
I'd take a look at that other game, Wisconsin and Notre Dame. The timing of Bo Ryan's retirement was just so bizarre to me, and Greg Gard has stepped in, and he's been able to replace a legend like Bo Ryan. You always know how that transition is tough, but it's looked pretty seamless with the result as the end. Wisconsin's back in the late month of March. Why has that transition just been so easy, and just what impresses you about that Wisconsin team led by their head coach now?
Well, I think that the reason it's been so easy is because Greg Gard was with Bo Ryan for 25 years. So it's a very similar team. Now, he's using more players than Bo Ryan used. There's guys that barely played under Bo Ryan that are actually getting some pretty good run under Greg Gard. I think they're pretty similar. And I think defensively they've just become a better team. They have 2 guys in the starting lineup that have 14. This will be their 14th NCAA game. So that experience is really difficult to duplicate. I don't care who you are. It's just difficult to duplicate. So to me, that's a big reason why they're in the Sweet 16 again, and that's a big reason why they'll be successful as, if they are successful to, beating Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's going to win the game, but I'm really impressed with the style of Wisconsin. I always have been. And I think that's something, from a basketball standpoint, I mean, listen, they were basically a shot away from winning the national title last year. Now, there's a lot of pieces that are gone from that team, but there are 2 big ones that are still here, in Nigel Hayes and the Koenig kid. So, they're going to try to ride that experience as best they can tonight.
And then on the other coaching sideline, Notre Dame, we all know Mike Brey's story. He's been with Notre Dame for a long time, and I heard him talk after the win last weekend, and he was saying maybe it's just our destiny this year to go. It seems like Notre Dame is playing with a lot of confidence right now, Tom.
Oh, they are. And I talked to him for a while yesterday, and, he is, these guys, you want to talk about a ball of energy. These guys are really riled up and ready to go. So they've got some depth. I mean, playing in the ACC doesn't hurt either. That's obviously something that I think benefits these teams that come in from the big conferences, is that they are so used to playing, this sort of an environment and this kind of a tournament. And it helps them. I really do. And I'm happy for Mike for a long time. I've known since he was in Delaware, and it's nice to see that he's having success.
Now, looking at the other coaching matchup for the later game, like in many playoff scenarios, coaching is an integral part of winning. What's the feel like around warm-ups and just what you've seen from Tom Crean's Hoosiers and then Roy Williams' Tar Heels?
Well, Roy's got it down to a science. I met him first when he was coaching Kansas. I mean, he's got it down to a science. I mean, he learned under Dean Smith. That obviously helped. And I think he's been able to provide his own niche when it comes to, these particular teams and these games. So, and he's got a really good backcourt. The fact that he's able to run Marcus Page out there, who's going to be a pro, and handle the basketball, Joe Berry handle the basketball. Those are all things that it's hard to teach that. Guard play is so important. And I think the fact that he has those two guys is a huge benefit for North Carolina.
Last one here with Tom McCarthy, who joins us right now on the hotline, WHIP Radio in Philadelphia. We talk about all these coaches, but let's get to the one coach that is still coaching in Philadelphia, and that, of course, is Jay Wright with his Villanova team. Right now, Tom, they're looking scary good. They have depth, and right now they're getting out to these quick starts, and they're just not missing shots. They look unstoppable right now.
Yeah, that's a huge thing, I think, is the fact that they're getting off the starts, that they're shooting the three as well as they are. Because at the beginning of the year, talking to Jay, he knew his team shot too many threes, and he was hoping that they would find some other form of offense to be able to offset when they struggle. But they haven't struggled. They struggled a couple times in the Big East, but not a whole lot. It cost them the number one seed, obviously, which is, I look at it now, and I wonder if it was the right or wrong thing that it cost them the number one seed. They're able to handle any kind of run that these teams put together because they have the ability to hit the three. And I think also, even though they're hitting the three, I think Ochefu has played so well. And I think that he is a huge key going into this game against Kansas, just because, they need an inside presence, and he's not backed off. Even with the ankle problem, he has not backed off anything that people have thrown at him.
Tom, I'll see you tonight. We appreciate the time. I'll bring you some licorice, okay? Sounds good.
All right, thanks, guys. See ya.
There's Tom McCarthy joining us on the hotline, WHIP Radio in Philadelphia. A good spot with him as we get you ready for these games in the NCAA tournament. So, Mike, I think it's